This is Zainab and Numan Nazir with program Public Interest Litigation. Existence is threatened and we are not even aware of this thing. Pollution is killing us silently and we're not doing anything about it. And to talk about this very subject, we have none other than Ahmad Rafay Alam, who is an environmental lawyer and activist. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we want to talk about the global importance of climate change. So how do you see this and the global importance of climate change?
I was reading something in the newspaper. This has been the hottest year on record of all other years. And if you look at the charts from the 21st century, I think we're in the 18th year of the 20th century. I think if you look at the top 100 hottest days or something like that, or the top 20, they're all in this century. The statistical anomalies are no longer anomalies. It is tried and tested proof that climate change is happening. Climate change means unprecedented and unexpected changes in established weather patterns. It's affecting the entire world. There's flooding going on around the world. There are hurricanes in the Pacific that have never been there before. Last year there were 4 large hurricanes in the Atlantic. This year alone, there have been floods in India and in Nepal and in Bangladesh. There have been floods in Pakistan almost every single year since 2010. So the effects of climate change impact tens, if not hundreds of millions of people every single year. In Pakistan, it is acute because Pakistan has been reported to be very, very vulnerable to climate change. What climate change in Pakistan means is that our well-established weather patterns, and the most prominent of which is the monsoon, is being disrupted. That means when we get rain and how our weather patterns are regulated is being affected. We're no longer getting the same amount of rain, we're not getting it at the same time, and we're not getting it at the same place. And this has far-flung implications from things such as how glaciers will store ice and release water to how cotton will grow in fields that are now 5 degrees hotter than they used to be. There can be impacts on livelihoods, there will be a crunch on food security, on water security, there will be increased vulnerabilities on health. As we're increasing flooding, the floods always bring health issues. Whenever the waters come and they recede, there will be disease afterwards. Mostly because a lot of the hospitals and dispensary stations are wiped out by the flooding. So the health-related impacts of climate change as well. So it's multi-sectoral, it's diverse, it's top to bottom, and it's in front of us today as a global and local threat.
In Pakistan, if we talk with respect to Pakistan, what environmental litigation status you see and उसको implement करने में क्या obstacles आप देखते हैं?
क्लाइमेट चेंज का पाकिस्तान में एक कानून है, पाकिस्तान क्लाइमेट चेंज एक्ट 2017 का. उसमें क्लाइमेट चेंज अथॉरिटी बनती है, पाकिस्तान क्लाइमेट चेंज काउंसिल है, और उसमें अथॉरिटी में चारों सूबों के नुमाइंदे जो हैं वो क्लाइमेट चेंज की रिलेटेड एक्टिविटीज़ पे नज़र रख सकते हैं और अडेप्टेशन और मिटिगेशन के प्लान्स बना सकते हैं. That said, litigating climate change is a very, very difficult and tricky situation because what do? Do you file a writ petition if the monsoon is late? Do you hold the Secretary Irrigation responsible if, the clouds fall open and flood northern areas? Conceptually, it's a bit difficult. But while I make light, this is a very serious issue. And I do want to point out that the Lahore High Court 2 years ago, in a path-breaking, internationally precedent-setting decision, the Asghar Laghari case, recognized that climate justice was part and parcel of the constitutional promises granted to us by the Constitution of 1973. And in some ways, the decision was authored by Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, opens the grounds for further litigation and legal action on the environment. If I can just take a second to give you a parallel, Pakistan's constitution has no reference to environment or climate change in its basic text. However, in 1994, the famous Shaila Zia judgment of the Supreme Court recognized that the fundamental right to life included the right to a clean and healthy environment and thereby brought in environmental justice into the scheme of litigation. We're now 25 years later after the Shaila Zia judgment, and I can sit here confidently and tell you that I make a career out of environmental law. So similarly, the Asghar Khan decision is path-breaking in that the future, I'm always an optimist, will see an improved awareness and litigation on the aspect of climate change as well.
So what upgradation of environmental laws do you suggest here in Pakistan?
Well, Pakistan faces a number of environmental issues. What is the environment after all? Is it just what the industries pollute, or is it the forests, or is it the wildlife, or is it the flora and fauna? Because we have laws relating to forests and flora and fauna and wildlife. What we have in Pakistan is an environmental law, legislation, the Environment Protection Act, the old Federal Environment Act and the provincial environmental legislations, that from their origins were designed to control industrial pollution in urban areas. They come from a path dependency or an institutional history, if you will, that limits their scope of application. If you read about what the Environment Protection Agency Punjab does, or the Pak EPA does in Islamabad, or any of the provincial EPAs, they will be issuing notices to factories. Very few of the EPAs will be undertaking biodiversity work, or will be working on climate change, or looking at how water resources can be conserved, all of which are environmental subjects. So our legislation limits the scope of the Environment Protection Agencies. We do have other laws that cover different aspects of the environment, because the environment is a multivariable subject at the end of the day.
So if we talk about air pollution, then Pakistan has crossed its limit. If your air quality index is more than 150, then you used to say you should stay in home. But normally in Lahore it's more than 100, and in winter it's more than 300. Why our government is not doing anything about it? Why we are not aware? We are getting respiratory diseases and all this stuff.
I'm glad you've asked this, because we're sitting here now at the end of August, beginning of September. Most likely there'll be a third smog event in Lahore late October, early November. What we have to realize is just how bad smog and air pollution is. There have been studies, one recently published by the Guardian newspaper in the United Kingdom, that conclusively proves that air pollution can stunt brain development. It actually impacts your intelligence. There was a Lancet study that was published last year. It was the most in-depth study of the global burden of disease carried by air pollution. And you'd be shocked to find that literally after smoking, global air pollution is the #1 killer on the face of the earth, and is actually responsible for more deaths than things such as smoking or using drugs or a whole number of other diseases put together actually are. So you have to understand just how bad air pollution is. And the thing about air pollution is it's a silent killer. We can't see it. Right now you mentioned the air pollution in Lahore is bad. You're right. I'm looking at my real-time monitor, which is available online. It's telling me the air quality index is 116. That is beyond the WHO limits. That means we are in a state where we should be taking care of ourselves. So your question was, what are we doing about this? Well, the law aside for a second, because we have environment quality standards that set the sort of prescribed criteria of what clean air should look like. So you'd also mentioned about the law, and I do also want to talk about the status of the law. But before we get to the law, because we have environmental quality standards that prescribe what the criteria for clean air is, but the issue, not just in Lahore but throughout Pakistan, is the fact that our environment protection agencies, which are legally mandated to monitor air quality and to ensure the implementation of quality standards, do not have the relevant air quality testing equipment to tell us how bad the air is. Right now, the Environment Protection Agency of Punjab, the most populous province in the country, has a total of 6 air meters. This is not enough for the city of Lahore, let alone the other 35 districts in Punjab which also require monitoring. When we get air quality reports out of Lahore, it doesn't mean it tells you what the air quality report in Sialkot is like or what it could be like in Balochistan. We desperately need monitors that inform citizens in the Environment Protection Agency just how bad or what the composition of the air pollution is before some sort of policy actions can be taken. So the law can stand where it is. People can pollute on the streets, as a matter of fact. The EPA doesn't have enough equipment to go and measure their emissions. So you get away with it because the department responsible for monitoring and enforcement doesn't have the budget to buy these machines, because there isn't enough political impetus to say, look, this is a crucially important issue. Air pollution disproportionately harms senior citizens, pregnant women and children. There are hundreds of thousands of children who go out onto school by foot in Lahore every day during the smog and air quality. And the state and society is doing them a disservice by stunting their growth and harming their brains and their development by polluting the way it is.
When Japan and China was suffering from smoke, they started using, hybrid cars. They moved their industries from cities to far away. Why we are not doing these kind of things? Like why we are not manufacturing hybrid cars.
First of all, we'd get to that stage if we knew how bad the situation was. If this country only has 5 air quality meters और वो भी लाहौर में लगे हुए हैं, do you think the people of Pakistan know how bad things are? In 2017, when the smog event happened in November and December, I got calls from people in South Punjab because they'd never seen something like this before. You know, it is something that impacts every parent, every person is concerned about how their loved ones or their children or their siblings will be impacted by this. So let's not forget the severe awareness people have, but they just don't have the information to do anything about it. So in order to do something about it, we need to have meters that tell us how bad the pollution is and what it's constituted of. Because it's not good enough to say कि जी वो इंडिया के अंदर crop burning होती है और उसकी वजह से it could be crop burning in India. But what if we're wrong and it's the road dust and the industrial emissions from North Lahore and industrial sectors of Lahore that's doing it? It would mean that our policy response has been flawed. So we need to know what the source apportionment of pollution is. What proportion of pollution is coming from cars, from dust, from construction, from crop burning, from industrial emissions, from secondary aerosols, and then we can have a policy to do something about it. That policy would include, certainly include, improving the fuel that we have in petrol in our cars in Pakistan. We have some of the worst quality petrol on the face of the earth that we burn in our automobiles. India, for example, has achieved Euro 6 standard with its fuel ratings. We are not even at Euro 2 right now. We'd have to do things with our cars, we'd have to increase public transport, we'd have to improve by kilometers the number of cities serviced by trains, we'd have to change the way our cities are designed, we'd have to move investments towards things like these clean cars or the electric cars, hybrid cars. Now, why would someone build a hybrid car in Pakistan unless there's money in it? Okay? Now, when you think about it, all of these initiatives to clean air, because it involves improving industrial emissions, it involves how you plan your cities, it involves investing in public transport and investing in various other things. Where do you think this money is going to come from? The state of Pakistan or the state of Punjab, and certainly the city of Lahore, aren't rich enough to do this. Other cities and other countries, when faced with the same dilemma, have then understood that in order to achieve air quality, they have to get money from the private sector to invest in clean air technologies. And getting the private sector to invest in clean air technologies can't be done if you're punishing them all the time with air quality legislation. Other countries, China you mentioned, has done particularly well because it's introduced a raft, a whole selection of green finances, green stock exchanges, green insurances that support the private sector investing in green technologies. So there, for example, in the last few years, they've managed to increase the production of electric cars to 300,000 last year. They're already selling millions of electric motorcycles. But that means वहाँ के जो सेठ हैं, जो businessmen हैं, they find that the money is available to be able to go there, and they're not threatened by the Environment Protection Agencies always breathing down their neck saying आपके पास ये नहीं, आपके पास वो नहीं है. I'm not saying that environmental enforcement isn't important. It is crucially important. But when you're trying to get something done, you have to have a conductive policy atmosphere to bring that private sector money in. Because सरकार के पास इधर पाकिस्तान में उस तरह के पैसे नहीं हैं हवा को साफ करने के लिए. They have to cooperate with the private sector.
Pakistan will drain out of water till 2025 or 20. It's a saying people used to say, and there's a study and all these things about it. Mm-hmm. How important is it? We talk about water, we save it, we are not doing anything about it.
You're absolutely right. Water is a very, very important issue. And it's also a very misunderstood issue, I feel it's a misunderstood issue. Water operates at different levels. We drink water, and water is used for irrigation. Water is used in the production of clothes. Water is used all over the place. And every place water is used, the legal regime and the laws and regulations controlling it are completely different. पानी शायद खत्म हो जाएगा अगले 10-12 साल के अंदर, तो मैं आपसे पूछूंगा किस तरह खत्म होगा? You have to ask where is the water coming from? Where is the water in Pakistan from? Where does it exist? It's in the glaciers in the mountains. Yes. They melt and come into our rivers. It comes from the monsoon, which deposits rain into the hills and the mountains and also into our rivers. And then it's stored in an aquifer underneath the surface. But it's the same water that flows down the Indus, goes into the sea, is evaporated and is brought back by clouds into the sort of monsoon system and back into Pakistan. It's a cycle. और ये उतना ही पानी रहेगा system के अंदर. It's the same amount of water since the earth started. There's never been a drop more of water since the earth started, and there won't be an extra drop of water. It will always be in the sky, on the ground, or underwater, either frozen, ice, or a gas. It's up to us how we use this limited supply of water. Should we choose to pollute it? Should we choose to convert it into cotton and then wear it? You know, these are questions that we have to ask ourselves. Pakistan के अंदर पानी ख़त्म नहीं हो रहा. Pakistan के अंदर बहुत पानी है, if you think about it. Over 100 million acre feet, and that's more than any Pakistani needs for his domestic consumption. The thing is that most of the water, and I'm talking over 90% of this over million acre feet, is used for agriculture. शहर के अंदर और इंडस्ट्री के अंदर it's only single digits use of water, this entire whole resource. तो अगर किसी शहर के अंदर पानी की कमी है, तो let's not grow sugar in water stressed areas in South Punjab. अगर कराची में घरों के अंदर पानी नहीं है, तो फिर गोल्फ कोर्स बंद कर दो. पानी तो है. It's a question of how we use it and how we utilize it. And the argument should be कि पानी को rationally इस्तेमाल करें. इस वक्त डैम्स के बारे में लोग बात करते हैं. The largest dam on plan is the Kalabagh Dam. The Kalabagh Dam, they say, will store 8 million acre feet of water that we'll be able to use throughout the year for the production of agriculture. But consider this. In our irrigation system, we are told that nearly 40% of the water that flows through our rivers in irrigation is lost either by evaporation, by theft, or by seeping into the ground. So 40 million acre feet, 5 times the size of Kalabagh Dam, is lost because of inefficiencies. We could make 5 Kalabagh dams by improving the efficiency of our water system. Again, it's not a question of making dams or not making dams, it's a question of rationally understanding where the water is, how you want to use it, and for what purpose.
This concept of 1 billion trees, we are going to plant, how much we going to get benefit from it? Is it going to change climate in our country? Is it going to help?
I don't think that anything can be wrong in planting trees. And I think anyone who goes out and plants hundreds and thousands or millions or billions of them is doing a great job. इनके benefits आप देखेंगे. Ecology में, local livelihoods के अंदर, इनके benefits आपको नजर आएंगे. The billion tree tsunami in the previous government in KP is a unique example of a political party using a green project to win an election. In Pakistan, in my history, as far as I can tell, the politicians have used infrastructure, grey, cement infrastructure to win projects. So for me, it's a beacon of hope that the people of Pakistan understand and value green projects and will vote people in on the basis of whether or not they're doing something that's environmentally good or environmentally bad.
This has been very comprehensive discussion on environmental laws and climate change. Stay tuned for coming programs and we will continue this very subject. Thank you so much.